Hi, and welcome to Spooky Hours. My name's David Saunders, and today we've got an interesting subject. We've got the official Jamaica Inn Paranormal Team. Now, many people will know the Jamaica Inn. It's an ancient pub in the middle of Bodmin Moor in Cornwall, very famous for being, I suppose, the subject of Daphne du Maurier's book and the subsequent film. It's got lots of great tales of smuggling and ghosts and all sorts of things. It's a very famous haunted hotel pub, and we've got they've got their own in-house team that does paranormal investigations. It's something that I've not really heard about before. I've never heard of a place that has its own official paranormal team. So we've got Gem and Karin here who are going to talk to us about that. Tell us about why it's so cool, Jamaica Inn. I went there a few years ago. I loved it, and that's why I'm really interested to find out more about the spookiness of it. So, as I say, the official Jamaica Inn paranormal team is with us tonight. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Hi, David. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. And Karen, how are you?
Very well,
Karen,
thank
sorry.
you.
Hi. As I was saying, just the introduction, I've been to the Jamaica Inn, and I was only there for the night, and I didn't do anything paranormal. But just as an historic place, brilliant. But how haunted is it?
Well,
Ooh,
I
you
think
go first, Jem.
yeah. I mean, I've seen and heard and even smelt things I can't explain. And it is odd. There's definitely things there that happen that are unexplainable as yet. So it sort of really sort of piques my interest, and we're just so lucky to be able to be there and go back and see it month on after month and share it with members of the public is awesome, and they help us as well. You know, they're part of our investigation. They do a grand job. So yeah, it's great.
Sorry, I'm just trying to work out how to do this the best way. Karen, how did it come about having an official team at the Jamaica Inn?
Well, 8 years ago, last November, a new owner called Alan Jackson bought the Jamaica Inn after just looking at it for 15 minutes. And he was friendly with a local lady called Amanda. And 2 months later, she had permission to do, their own official team. And she invited me and a friend along. And we started off, it all went well. Myself and my friend left, and then he was asked to come back. I came back with him, and I've been there ever since. So in next week is 8 years celebrating this fabulous location.
That's a long time to do any investigations anywhere. What have you found over the years? Because that's, a lot of places you go in, do an investigation, boom, leave, thanks very much. I mean, you can certainly go back and rediscover things.
Well, for me, it's been an 8 year study because it absolutely fascinated me. I mean, I'm very, very skeptical as an investigator now, but I was lucky that a wonderful lady called Helen Bennett decided to do a bit of research for me. And that sparked my interest in finding out not the famous Daphne du Maurier story, but people that actually lived and died there and their story. And to get to grips of what is really haunting. And, when you're lucky enough to look after a location, I think we have a moral duty to do as much research and interview. I've interviewed a lady that was born there in 1955, a lady that worked there from 1959 to 69. So you're getting an accurate portrayal of the historic side as well as the paranormal reports long before they had the pleasure of the Ghost Club and then obviously, other paranormal teams. But people's perspectives change. What fascinates me is 1950s, the paranormal report was a guest coming down in the morning saying to Mr. Gross, the manager, who's been in my bedroom while I was sleeping and folded up my clothes neatly and put them at the end of the bed. not a living person. But where is that ghost gone? That's the interesting thing. Do paranormal reports change? Do we influence it? Or do we project what we think haunts it? And that's why we're very lucky to keep studying this wonderful location.
Can you give us a little bit of a history of the Jamaica Inn for people that are not aware of it?
Yes, every year we find out something new, so I have to go back to the drawing board. What we know now is round about 1760, a man called John Road, and he may have been a sea captain, with a handshake, so no written agreement, with the landowner called James Scarwin, was allowed to hedge in 20 acres of land. And he built a small dwelling house, which is the Jamaica Inn, just up to the Chimneys. We think lately one of the museum part might be a barn. I'm hoping to get dendrodating on that. He also was a tenant of a fine clay works just around the corner. So this man had money. He also got his site by a handshake, which was very unusual. And he called this Bold Venture, and it became the hamlet of Boldventure. So he had two sons, James and John. They married two sisters, Mary and Frances. And then what happens, you find that families take on the location, and then as the years go by, it changes hands. But when he died in 1801, we know of the toll road in 1778. So the extension, the building across the road, the Ford, which is the white building opposite, because we have the bellows. So more money came in, but in 1828, when the second wife of John Jr. died, the acreage had gone from 20 to 1,565 acres. That is a lot of return. So then the smuggling question comes in, which we can't prove, but being isolated, it's a perfect dropping off place. There's no tunnels underneath, no caves. We know that is solid granite. But having a pub myself over 30 years ago, we know that things pass through, and it's a great way to obtain things, on a black market rate.
So it's obviously got a lot of history there. For how long has it actually been considered haunted?
So 1911 was the first reported incident of a man dressed strangely on the wall, and that went in Country Life magazine. So it documented history of paranormal since 1911.
Okay. Gem, how did you become involved with the organisation? I mean, I say organisation, the team. Karin said obviously been here since the start, but I believe you've not been involved that long.
No, well, I mean, as a Cornish girl, I used to visit Jamaica Inn and adored the place and visited it as a child. And as a grown up, when I moved back to Cornwall, I noticed that there were events at Jamaica Inn, and I came along as a member of the public. So I got to know some of the team there. And as time went on, I was kindly invited to join the team by one of our past members. And yeah, and I think it's been about a year, hasn't it, Corinne? So I just absolutely loved it. And I love just working with members of the public as well. And we get other investigators who come along as well. We get a really nice mix of people. We also get returners who come back and share their stories and sort of teach me things and tell me their experiences. When I stayed here, this happened. And it's fascinating then to sort of corroborate it with someone else's experience and realize they've actually said the same thing. And yeah, it's just fascinating. So yeah, there's a friendly bunch down there.
But you've only been involved a short time with the official team here, but
Yes.
you've been doing this for about 20 years. Can you maybe tell us about how you became involved overall in the paranormal and why you like doing this kind of thing?
I've always been sort of fascinated by the macabre and dark side of life. I remember me reading the the Osborne Book of Ghosts when I was a kid, and my dream job was to be a ghost hunter and loved Ghostbusters, all that kind of stuff. And then just watching paranormal TV, so things like Most Haunted back in the day, and just thinking, okay, I want to get out there and do this again, and just studied and read and got out there for myself. So I didn't have a team to begin with. I just used to go out with friends, and we used to go and visit reputed haunted locations and book a hotel room or whatever, and just see if we came up with anything. And it just grew from there. And again, once for a while I lived in Somerset, and once I moved back down to Cornwall, I actually did it was great at Cornwall College in Poole here in Cornwall. I did a leisure course, a paranormal course, and I just thought it'd be a great way to come back and meet some other weirdos, and I did. And I got invited onto a couple of other teams, and which was great. And we were able to go out and investigate regularly, which I think is important, and repeatedly go back to locations. I think that's really important as well. And then I eventually got invited to work with another public paranormal events team, and yeah, and it just grew from there, really. And like I say, I came along to one of Jamaica Inn's paranormal nights and met the team, and here I am. So it's awesome.
You're certainly not starved of great locations in Cornwall. I went to Cornwall a few years ago, as I said, and you know you could do it. You could go to five a day basically if you had the
Yeah.
stomach for it. Uh, Karen, what is it about Karen? What is it about Cornwall? Do you think makes it such a cool place for paranormal teams?
For me, being born and bred and lived in Bristol, there's just something about the mystique. The Jamaica Inn being over 900 feet above sea level, when you come down over the brow of the hill on the A30 towards the inn, if you've got a foggy morning, it looks like the inn is floating on an island. And you can take yourself back to the time when only good travellers went along, because there used to be a Roman track outside the Jamaica Inn, and you've got bogs, you've got highwaymen, you've got footpads, but you've also got these fabulous, tough Cornish people that consider themselves separate to the rest of the country and didn't like being ruled by anyone.
So, so you. You found this place, which is obviously awesome and it's very interesting, and you've been doing investigations for 8 years. What is we obviously understand the upsides of investigating a place a lot of times, as Jem said, you get the same people coming back. You can compare what someone said from this room, I'm imagining, to that room. So do you have the whole place mapped out? Do you know what's happened in that room, what's happened in that room, what's happened in that room?
Yeah, we're very lucky. We introduced a few years ago something called a smuggler's board for the public. So we have all the areas outlined, we have pen and paper, and then if people have an experience, they'll write it down, clip it to the right part, and we collect the data. Now, that's very important, because a perfect example is you might have a report of something, and we don't tell everyone everything. We like to keep things back. The Gandalf figure, we'll call him that. A few ago, two separate mediums picked up on a hooded figure in the alcove of room 4. Now, it wasn't a monk, it was a man with a hood, looked more like a pilgrim. Well, recently, about 3 years ago, the night duty manager was in the back of the main bar, putting some bottles away in the cellar, and a bottle jumped out of the shelf, landed perfectly in front of him. He looked to the left, and that's where the name the Gandalf figure came from. He said the only way I can describe it was Gandalf from that film. This year, a young waitress saw the figure in the lower peg or the lower restaurant. And then a few weeks ago in room 34, which is part of the new block, it's only 4 years old, She woke up to find a man hooded with a long white beard leaning over the bed, staring intently at her husband. So just that one thing, cataloguing it, knowing the data, then helps you to sort of try and find out what is that person. We know that about 5 miles down the road is a village called Temple, and it was founded by the Knights Temple. And we know that Cornwall was famous for the Pilgrim Trail, which took you to Spain and then Jerusalem. So is that a pilgrim? But why is he there when that hamlet didn't exist before 1760? And then that's why we need more study and more investigation to find out if we can find the answer. I wish I was psychic. I'm as psychic as a brick. That's what I tell everyone, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, that all sounds, makes sense, and that the benefits are there. Do you ever get bored doing the same place all the time?
No,
No.
no. I love it. I love it because we do it over and over again, and it's always different as well. Which yeah, it's just you just want to keep going back. It's very homely. It's one of the few places where I don't think I ever feel really scared in. There are a few places where I've lost my nerve. But this isn't one of them. You feel like it's welcoming, and anything that is there um, is uh, is friendly, and yeah, I just love it. And the thing is, when you do get something that you cannot explain, you want more. And I'm desperate to see the man in the tricorn hat, and haven't seen him yet. So I have been told by a psychic that actually I'm too keen. But I'm quite happy to sit on that corridor while I've got all the guests tucked away in their bedrooms, doing their various experiments, and I will sit out there in the dark and hoping for a glimpse. But as yet, I've not seen him. I may have heard him, but not seen him yet.
Do the two of you do investigations at other places, or are you just completely exclusive to the Jamaica Inn now?
No, we go to quite a few. I mean, just in Cornwall as well, we've become friends with the owners of two fabulous locations called St Benet's Abbey, that was founded around about 1410, Pengenna Manor, which goes back to the 1200s.
Okay, so
And you make it's fabulous. You make friends with people in Launceston. So the Causley Trust, we did a ghost walk for them. Know, free of charge, our time back to the local community, because Cornwall is a very friendly county. And if ever I win the lottery, I should be moving down there like a shot.
well,
It's
you're not very
it's
far away
it's
anyway,
just
are you?
it's only 2.5 hours is down the road.
It's quite close in that respect. So you were talking about before, and I found it interesting. You were saying, Jem, that you'd never seen the man in the triangle hat, or whatever the word is, the
Yeah,
word you use,
the tricorn hat.
tri-corner hat. What are the legends of the? Are there particular ghosts that you keep coming up against, or when I say up against, makes it like, but coming across, I should say.
Well, from what I understand, and Corinne will back me up, I think it was back in 1911
Oh, whoops,
scene
no,
in.
sorry about that. Sorry,
That's okay.
sorry, press the wrong
Um,
button.
I think it was back in 1911, wasn't it, Corinne, that a man in strange clothing was seen out on the wall of the inn, and the wall is no longer there. There's a different wall now, and we've had reports of this man in a tricorn hat that's been seen in room 5, who walks through the wardrobe, through the bathroom, and then into room 6. I think he was featured in one of Peter Underwood's books as well about Cornwall. When he came to visit, I'm not sure he saw him, but there were certain reports back then, and he's also been seen down in the bar. Now, whether this is the same person, we have no idea, and that's why it's great to keep going back. And we don't know if it's. Some people report that there's a green coat or a cape. Other people say it's black and white, and talk about the boots. But you think back then in those times, there would have been lots of men in tricorn hats. So, is this the same person? Who knows? We don't know, but yeah, one of his hotspots allegedly is up on the haunted bedroom corridor. And I remember was probably about 2 years ago now. I was staying in there on a private hire night of Corinne's, and I was there with my friend Diane, and we were in room 6, and we were chatting away, and just, we'd investigated. It was time to sort of go to sleep, and we heard really loud footsteps coming down the corridor towards us. And you go check, and there's nobody there. The lights didn't activate as well. We've got motion sensor lights out there, they didn't activate, and yet there was nobody there. And that's one of the common features I find up in the bedrooms. Even it was about 3 years ago, before I was on the team, I stayed at the inn with my husband, and we were staying in room 9. And some friends of us had booked room 5, so we'd gone over there just to chat to them and have a bit of a giggle. And it was probably early hours of the morning, and the floors, if you've ever been to Jamaica Inn, you'll know that the floors are supremely creaky, and you cannot sneak about. It's very loud as you walk around. So as we're walking back to our room, even trying to walk really quietly, I was concerned they weren't disturbing any other guests. Went into room 9 and shut the door. And all of a sudden, again, we had really loud footsteps coming down the corridor from the right, which was coming from the direction of room 12 towards our bedroom. And I thought, oh, Neil, we've gone and disturbed somebody. We're in trouble. And this time the lights had come on in the corridor, and you could see really clearly the shadow of 2 feet under the door. I thought, oh, I'm just going to have to open the door and just apologise that, when we came back and we might have woken you up. I'm really sorry. Anyway, open the door. There was nobody there. And we did not hear those footsteps go away. They came really heavily to the door, and I just couldn't explain it. And funny enough, that for me is the most common phenomena that happens up in the bedrooms. I say for me, I think I've experienced that phenomena now in not always the footsteps, but the shadow of the feet under the door. I've seen it in room 5 really clearly, and I'm not, a scaredy cat. If I see them, I run to the door, and there's nobody there. And when you close the door again, they're gone. That shadow isn't there. And it's just frustrating, because I think, what is this purpose? If this is a spirit, it's almost like they're trying to interact, yet they're not. You leave with more questions than answers, and that's one of the things which is joyous, that you want to keep going back and find out more. I've waffled on.
It's fantastic. I mean, I've just been trying to look through my photos for when I was at the Jamaica, and I was trying to find out which hotel room I was in, because I'm sure you've got a tale for that, but maybe it's better than I didn't know. So, but we certainly didn't have anything that was too spooky in there. I felt that we had too much fun looking at the museum and enjoying the very good beers there. From your experience, Karen, what are your favourite experiences that you've had at the Jamaica Inn over the years? What's the ones that you've
Well,
gone,
it was
that's been
about
amazing?
14 years ago. I was there as a guest in the museum, and I saw my first ever apparition, if you want to call it, witnessed by 3 other people. And I put some bracelets on the floor, and we were sat in a chair, and it was like little slithers of a girl, a Victorian dress, white oversmart, beautiful long blonde hair, on her knees looking at the bracelets. What I didn't know at the time is that apparition, that description, has been seen around the inn for over 30 years. Now, the most common name for this little girl is Elizabeth, because we know who lived there, but we'll not prove it. So we're very, very careful about labelling a ghost and who they are, etc. I've also had the footsteps around the bed in room 5 and in the manager's flat, and it's very common in room 3 to lie in bed and to hear taps and giggling, that sort of thing. But you can also be there on a night and nothing happens. You just don't know with the place. When you think you know everything about it, it serves you a curveball, and you're back to square one trying to fathom out what is there and why.
Have you thought of why? What are you What are your opinions of ghosts and apparitions and spirits and things? What do you actually think there is? Having done so much investigations over the years in the one spot, what have you learnt from that?
What I can say is none of us can prove that there's life after death. We all know that. But these reports are so consistent. And recently I started going back through the visitors log from 2010, and I'm just up to 2011, and seeing some of the things that reported that are still reported now. But when Jen was saying about the tricorn man, one thing that interests me, and there was a lovely lady, Rachel Hayward from Rope. We were doing a private investigation there. We were in the main bar with her colleague Sabrina, and where the main fireplace is a table, and we call it Jack's seat. We don't know if Jack is his name, it's just what he's been labelled with down the years. And she happened to look up, and to her right was a man sat in a modern chair with his elbow on a modern table. He had black breeches, black high boots, a white frilly shirt. He had black curly hair and a black beard. But she said it was the expression on his face, a mixture of amusement and what the hell are you doing type of thing. Now, what she didn't know is outside room 5, I had an independent report from 2016 of a woman seeing that exact same description, stood outside room 5, looking down the corridor at her, solid as anything. And when Haunted Britain Investigates came and did a private investigation, I was lucky enough to follow their medium, didn't say anything. He picked up on the same. Now, who this man is, I don't know. What we do know is that is consistent in that description. But we also have Hannah in room 5. That never existed 14 years ago. So it shows how easy is something to be labelled from a TV show, and then suddenly that becomes the ghost. So we have that responsibility to be as honest as possible in our findings.
I suppose that's right, isn't it? Because it almost becomes law after once someone's said it publicly, and then everyone thinks, well, that's right. Whereas it could just be not necessarily made up, but just a mistake.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we get people bringing letters for Hannah, don't we, and cuddly toys. So if you go into room 5 and open the wardrobe, it's full of cuddly toys and baskets of letters. I have to wonder, after so long, people calling out for Hannah, has something been imprinted in there? Has something been, has some kind of energy manifested? Because there's nothing historically associating a Hannah ever being there. And yet some people are alleging they're calling out and they're getting responses when they use that name. Hasn't worked for me, I have to say, but
I
you know.
suppose if you call a dog a certain name long enough and you feed it, it will come. You could call it anything;
Yeah,
it'll come. So
yeah,
Does that
yeah.
work for husbands as well?
I don't know, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. You can just call it whatever you like, and
Yeah.
that's what happens. I mean, that's a bit strange. I mean, I know that I've seen in different places where they've left dolls and things for supposed child ghosts and stuff like that, but it's quite creepy to do it in a hotel. So, are there any rooms that aren't touched by ghosts at the Jamaica Inn? Are you ever guaranteed to get one that's not haunted?
Well, in the old block,
Mm.
as we call it, so the older part of it, so the famous haunted rooms are 3, 4, 5, and 6. But room 7, 8, 9, and
I
then
think I
10,
was in
11,
eight.
12.
I
Yeah.
I think I was in eight because I was trying to think before, and I think I wanted to be in five or something like that, and I didn't get it. I got eight, and I thought, so you're saying that
So
eight's all right? Yeah.
8 is knocking on the door and footsteps above, when actually it's not an attic, it's just a crawl space. And I've also, looking back on the visitors book, the television turning itself on at 2 or 3 in the morning. And in 2022, on a private hire, we had that in room 9 as well, the telly turning itself on when no one was in there. Could be a logical reason, but when you think the televisions have been upgraded in the last 5 years, it goes right back to 2010.
Okay. Well, sorry I interrupted you because I got excited by the room 8 thing, but were there any rooms that are not haunted? Like, I mean, it sounds like lots of them are.
Well, as you go past reception, that was the original cowshed. So when they put in room 15, 16, I mean, the numbers were different years ago. We might have an odd one. What fascinates me is the end block, room 23, only 4 years old. I've had experience, guests have had experience, including the Victorian lady, seen at 2 o'clock in the morning, just standing there, and this sort of very tired paranormal investigator looking up and thinking, why is housekeeping here? And then this woman just turned right, walked into the bathroom, and never came out again.
So there's a
So
Victorian lady in a cowshed.
it's there you go. So does that mean go see us and the Jamaica Inn in real time? I'd
Or
love
it's a
to know
load
the
of bull.
answer. Who knows? Who
Bull poo
knows?
in the cowshed. All right. So,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that is interesting because I always think that you have to you have to think about these things. Why would a Victorian lady be in there? I can understand if it had previously been something else, but I don't
It
know.
was a working farm for over 110 years.
Yeah. I suppose also
And
what you
they,
consider a Victorian lady,
yeah,
a domestic is
and
a lady. So,
they used to have auctions of livestock at the Jamaica Inn as well, especially
okay.
when it became a temperance inn in 1880 to 1950.
Well, that was one of the darker times of it then, obviously. So, so there's a museum there, which is very, very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Jem, do you want to tell David what's happening with the museum at the moment?
Well, at the moment, from what I understand, it is currently closed. The last time I was there was a couple of weeks ago, and everything is being repainted. All the walls are being repainted. All the pictures are down. So to be honest, I don't know what's going to happen in there. It's going to be exciting. We have a new manager at the inn, and he's really enthusiastic to sort of bring it back to life and just rejuvenate it. And so it's really exciting. And it'll be interesting to see if that has any effect on paranormal activity as well. We will wait and see. Um, and at some point as well, there's going to be when you go into the stable block, visitors can watch a video all about the Jamaica Inn and a little bit of the history of Cornwall. And at some point, we're going to rejig that and refilm a new documentary as well. So lots of change, but for the better. So it's going to be awesome. So
Yeah.
watch the space.
Well, it was a very interesting museum. I remember. I'm not particularly into Daphne du Maurier. I mean, I saw the film, and but it had lots of old smuggling things and stuff like that, which
That's
were
it,
quite
yeah.
cool. So it's and that was what I found interesting about the Jamaica Inn was there's actually stuff to do there. Sometimes you just go into a Premier Inn or you go to a pub and all there is to sit and watch the football or have a drink and have your dinner. Where at the Jamaica Inn, there's lots of things to do, as well as have a ghost hunt. So how can people do a ghost hunt, or how can they get involved?
So for the public, on the website under the paranormal section, you will see all the dates that we do for public paranormal nights, and that includes the meal as well. If you're brave enough to book into one of the haunted rooms that we use, you get a discount because obviously we like to investigate, and then the scaredy cats go to bed after with the light on.
Mm,
But one of the loveliest things is, as an investigator ourselves, we think everyone should be able to investigate, and that includes investigators, because what they bring to the table is just as important. And we have private hire. So you can hire it, a collection of 19 people, or if there's small teams, we'll set up a private hire so they can come down, sleep over, have the old part of the Jamaica into themselves, and do what we all love, is actually investigating away from the public, which to me is heaven.
it's, it sounds excellent. So what have you got coming up? What interesting things are you planning for 2023?
Well,
Well,
we have we have a psychic night, don't we? The first ever.
yes,
We're trying something new. I believe it has sold out, hasn't it, Corinne?
yeah,
The
1st of
yeah.
April.
So
And we've
and
got Richard Estep coming for a public night because he's staying because he's writing a book about the Jamaica Inn. And every time he thinks he's finished, I find out new bits of information. So he gets very agitated, bless him. And he says, he'll never finish it. Um, we are also held because the new owner, the coaching inn that bought the Jamaica Inn in the last summer. What I like with Kevin Charity, the CEO, is he's on the same wavelength of us because he's inherited a paranormal team. He knew nothing about paranormal or what happened. So we've had lots of lovely meetings, and he commissioned myself and a studio that I work closely with to redo the video and to do a documentary. But he doesn't like tacky, which is music to our ears, because with us, our paranormal residents have every right to be there, same as us and the guests, and we are respectful. Sometimes they'll interact. The naughty one that we label Jack, sometimes on command, he'll grab the right buttock of someone who's blindfolded in another part of the inn, completely unaware. But again, you just never know with that place. We had one chap we sent upstairs in between room 3 and 4, and Gemma quietly asked for Jack to grab his right ankle. And the chap came down and said, "That's really strange. I felt someone grab my right ankle." But it's for us, we think, how does this work?
Mm.
But it all depends. You never can predict if it's going to be active or quiet, and that's what we love about it.
Oh, well, just before I go, because I just thought of a question, and it really does intrigue me, the idea that you've been investigating the one place regularly, no doubt month by month for the last 8 years. You've written it all down? Do you make that available to people? How do you because that's actual proper
Far,
research.
far as I'm concerned, anything I have is open to the Jamaica Inn and the public because we are just the paranormal custodians. That is it. The Jamaica Inn's the star. And being serious investigators, what better place than a world famous location to study and try to understand why some spirits come in and go? Why a US airman from the Second World War the last few years that wasn't there before. So
Mm,
is it the granite? Is it the silica in the granite? Or is it like a white light that attracts passing Farmer George? We don't know.
mm.
And, we hope to be there many more years to come. And with myself, Gemma, Lisa, and Rachel, it's a fabulous all-woman team.
That's a good point. I didn't know that. So it's an all-woman team. I'm going to leave Gem, seeing you're the newer member of the team, just to and I'm sure both of you could talk for 3 hours straight on any subject I asked you about when it comes to the Jamaica Inn. Why should people visit the Jamaica Inn?
um, I think it's just an icon. It's a bucket list location. It's you've got that historical connection with Du Maurier. It's a beautiful Cornish building in a beautiful part of the world, and it strange stuff is happening there that we cannot explain. And there's more to uncover. And we need people to come and experience it for themselves and to chat to us and let us know and be part of that experience. So, yeah, it's an awesome place. Yeah,
It's just, I think it's a history lovers and
yeah,
paranormal lovers delight. That's what I think of it. It's
yeah.
fantastic. So, thank you both, Karen and Jem, for talking to me tonight. You've just made me want to come down to Cornwall. It's just a pity it's so far away. I can't just drive there this weekend.
Um,
But I just can't go. We're going there tomorrow night, but we'll definitely go there. My wife loves the place, so it's not going to be that much of a hard ask for her to go. So once again, thank you for speaking to Spooky House tonight, and you have a great day.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
David. And you. Bye.